for October 13th, 2015. Please stand for the prayer and the flag salute. Mr. Marcio.
Thank you, Vice President McKinney. Heavenly Father, some of us, we travel the high roads and the low roads, and we experience different journeys and go through different places. And we thank you for places like Monaca, where we have fellowship and friends, people who care. We have a sense of community here. We thank you. We just thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a quick note that when I'm sitting here, Mr. DiMarzio, we switched our names around, and Mr. DiMarzio had a bit of a medical condition, and we just like to make sure glad he's back with us and doing well. And so hopefully next meeting you can take over him again. So good to see you back.
Jeff, thank you. You're a great friend.
Okay, Ms. Sonny, can we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Snyder, Mrs. Rossi,
Here.
Mr. May, Vice President McKay,
Present.
Mr. Michael,
Present.
Mr. Boer,
Present.
Mr. Zigarelli,
Present.
Mr. Wilson,
Present.
Mr. Nichol,
Yep.
President DiMarzio,
President, raising hell.
Mayor Galline.
Present.
Okay, we'll move on now to the engineer's report. Mr. Sadek.
Evening. Just briefly, we have still the paving project on the books. Mr. Youngblood called me today, I'm trying to get a schedule for him. He was supposed to be technically this week. And after talking for a while, a short phone call really, he said that he was trying to coordinate with Danny. I wasn't sure if Danny was going to be here today or not, but he said he was working or talking to him about working on some manholes need to be raised, and he was going to get some details of the timetable with him and coordinate when they can be hopefully coming down this year. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. I told Larry, the contractor, that at this point, he needs to talk directly. I told him that unfortunately for him, he keeps getting kind of delayed, and now it's getting to the point where I don't want to speak for him anymore. I know Larry, I've known him for years, but at this point, he has to justify why he can't be here. I don't know what else to say. Water and sewer. We've been trying to get some updates on budgets for capital improvements. I owe Kurt a phone call or a discussion here, but we have a list that we're sort of finalizing. There was a discussion on updating our rates too, so we're finalizing that work. By your next meeting, we should have everything ready for you. That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Sadek? Mr. Michael.
Tony, when they got a date they're gonna quit making talk? I mean, we gotta be getting close.
Well, the way it is now, the plants will stay open as long as the weather's decent. They used to just shut down, so at the end of the month, they don't do that anymore. So as long as the weather's decent, they stay open. I can tell you, we have about 6 or 7 projects that still need paving in different locations. That has nothing to do with Monaca, so they'll keep paving as long as it's 40 plus.
Mr. Zigarelli.
You mentioned he's been trying to get in touch with Danny. I mean, how long? has he
No.
been trying?
If I said that, I was wrong. He was not trying to get, I was trying to get in touch with Larry, the contractor, to get an update, because I think I mentioned to Sweet County about a month ago, he said, the contractor said he'll be here first or second week of this month. And that's what I've been saying over and over. So about a think I was asked the question for an update, so about a week or two, I've been trying to get a hold of the contractor to get me an update. And he called me today, like 4:30. And that's when he said, he might have called Danny one time yesterday, and he was trying to arrange other things with Danny on what can be done. I didn't get a straight discussion on deadline or dates or anything, and I kind of was saying that you talk straight to Danny and, you know, you can explain if there's any issues, why it can't be done.
The highway department has 2 catch basins they have to restore on that road. They're up there, they may have been there today, if not, they'll be there this week. You know, they installed the 2 down here on 10th Street, and that's the next one. So, if Larry says he's coming in tomorrow, well, then they'll work until they get it done. Tomorrow. But of course, they gotta come in and they won't be paving. Probably at least for another week, even if they came in tomorrow, they won't be paving until next
Okay,
week.
nothing else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Stack. Okay, this time we'll open the visitor section up for comments regarding items on the agenda. Anyone liking to speak at this time? Items on the agenda? Okay. Visitor section's closed. Now we'll move on to communications, Mr. Leon.
Thank you, President Kay. Excuse me, Vice President, because you're President today. I have one communication. It's from the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, and it's notifying us that we received $6,191 in a recycling performance grant. And what this is based on is the tonnage that we collected in recyclables applied against the tonnage that goes to the landfill to have this ratio. So the more that the residents recycle, that amount can increase. So that's one of the reasons why, as a borough, we try to promote our residents to recycle more than you throw into the trash, because we do receive a financial benefit to do it. So.
Mario, is that a yearly thing or monthly, quarterly?
Yeah, it's a yearly grant, and they run a 1-year cycle behind. So we're receiving the performance based on the 2013 year, and we just completed and sent in in the month of October the data for 2014. So it runs a full year behind.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to the minutes. Motion to approve regular minutes, meeting minutes for September 22nd, 2015.
So moved.
Mr. Zerr makes the motion. Mr. Zigarelli seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Fiscal and contractual motion to approve monthly bills.
So moved.
Mr. Brewer makes motion.
Second.
Mr. Zigarelli seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mayor's report, Mary Ann.
Yeah, the total number of citations and warnings for the month of September was 133. The total calls for service was 136. And the total monetary receipts for the month was $3,288.72.
Any questions for the mayor? No questions, we'll move on. Public Works Committee Chairman's report, Councilman Wilson.
We didn't have a meeting, our meeting is scheduled next Tuesday, that's the monthly scheduled meeting, but each committee member didn't have any communication. Have worked with Mr. Leon in regards to Mr. Swartz, Monaca stated increase for rates, increase for rates, the water rates, as well as the budgetary rates. So we're currently working on that, and we'll have a meeting next week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Okay, highway report, Mr. Colville is in here at this time. Water report attached. Wastewater treatment plant report, Mr. DeJoe.
Thank you. Chris DeJoe, Monaca wastewater treatment plant operator. Just a quick summary of what went on in September 2015. Section 1 NPDES permit compliance. The treatment plant was in compliance for the month. Paragraph C, they were required to write 20 stormwater sample reports. What this does is this lets us know, lets the DEP know that if any contaminants are entering into the Ohio River via the storm sewers that are located within the treatment plant, those reports were conducted and are kept on file at the wastewater treatment plant. The pretreatment program is ongoing. Sanitary waste hauling and processing, total receipts were $8,664. I sent a memo out, or a letter, I think, to Ms. Honig, regarding a rate increase. We are going to raise the rates on the septic haulers themselves. We're going to raise it by 2 cents a gallon. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it accumulates pretty quickly to offset the disposal cost, the increase that Brewers came in at. So. Disposal costs, the belt press was in operation for 8 days during the month. Total disposal costs were $2,781.62. There's several items in maintenance construction operations. You can review them at your leisure. Safety, I may have mentioned this last month, but if I didn't, just want to give you a heads up that the contractor that conducts West Nile monitoring at the wastewater treatment plant has informed us that they have received positive results for West Nile contaminated mosquitoes at the wastewater treatment plant. So we're doing everything we can to keep the populations under control, as well as the DEP. They spray the grounds at no cost as well. So, finally, Section 8, personnel. All personnel have met their contractual obligations regarding employment.
Any questions for Mr. DeJoe? Mr. Michael?
Herb, the 2 cents, we're gonna have to raise that again soon, you think? Did you, put it this way, did you do a comparison with any other treatment plants that take in haulers?
We are actually quite high compared to other facilities.
Really?
Our benefit is we're centrally located.
Okay, thank you.
You know, we're the best game in town as far as a lot of these vendors go. So I don't anticipate another increase for a while. I mean, we could raise the rate anytime we want. The septic haulers are you know, they're at our you know, beck and hand, whatever we determine. You know, they're just going to pass the price increase off to their customers. However, there probably will come a tipping point one time when they say, well, we can go to Elphiston or Newcastle or one of the other facilities. So, you know, it's kind of a juggling act, but, you know, to make sure that we don't lose them. Newcastle and Elphiston. But the contract through Bruners is a 4-year well, it's a 3-year contract with a 1-year addendum. So, you know, that should cover the disposal costs for us. And if you look at the comparison between what we've taken in and what we've paid for disposal, you know, that's a difference of $6,000 to the positive regarding the disposal costs. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. DeJoe. All right, we'll move on. General Government Committee Chairman's report. Councilman Brewer.
We had a meeting last Tuesday. We interviewed Brendan Regalia, and there was 3 in attendance, Mr. Zigarelli, Mr. Snyder, and myself. And all the other items are listed under general government that we discussed, and they were all voted on unanimously.
All right, we'll move on to letter B, a motion to hire part-time employee Brandon Regalia with the Public Works Department at a rate of $13.50 an hour, not to exceed 32 hours per week.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Brewer makes the motion, Mr. Zigarelli seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to increase the rate of part-time employee Public Works Don Cronk to $14 an hour.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brewer made the motion, who was the second? Mr. Michael second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to advertise ordinance 945 vacant property ordinance.
So moved.
Second. I have a question on the motion. Can we have a little clarification so the public understands what that ordinance is? Please, I'm sorry. Elaborate on it a little bit.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll just read the heading of it very quickly here. An ordinance of the Borough of Monaca, Beaver County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing regulations applicable to vacant residential, industrial, and commercial structures in addition to the provisions set forth in the International Property Maintenance Code. Basically, what this ordinance does is it addresses vacant properties in the borough, and if they are vacant for more than 60 consecutive days, there are standards that they need to come into compliance with. And if a property remains vacant for longer periods, there's a fee schedule as to where they are fined and assessed accordingly. And I'll give you a breakdown. So if a property is vacant for less than 1 year, and there's stipulations in it that defines vacant, and a property owner is doing nothing to try to put it on the market or anything, they are fined $250 the first year, for less than 1 year. The first year, then it's $500. The second year that it remains vacant, it's $1,000. Third, fourth is $2,000. 5 through 9 is $3,500. And if it remains vacant for 10 years, they continue to pay a $5,000 penalty. It's an incentive for property owners to do something with their property and putting it on the market and actively trying to drive down the main street of Monaca. Currently, I believe of all the vacant storefronts that you see, there's probably only 2 of them that are even on the market that with any interest in wanting to rent them or for sale. So we're hoping that this provides another tool in our toolbox to try to stimulate some economic development.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Okay, with that, we have the motion by Mr. Brewer and a second by Mr. Zigarelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to advertise Inline Park Phase 1 construction.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brewer makes the motion, Mr. Zigarelli seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to award Mahoney Builders Incorporated for CJ Mansion elevator installation in the amount of $196,655.00.
So moved.
Mr. Brewer makes the motion.
Second.
Mr. Wilson seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
It's like all of an element.
Motion to award Electric Construction LLC electrical construction bid. Motion to award Union Electric Construction LLC electrical construction bid for CJ Mansion elevator project in the amount of $22,600.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brewer makes the motion, second by Mr. Zigarelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve quote from U.S. Municipal in the amount of $12,753 for Flink 10-foot SSV box spread.
All right, I'll make the motion, but Mary, do you want to explain a little bit of the rest of them?
Yeah, what had happened, it was probably a month or so ago that your council had approved the purchase of a salt spreader in the back of this vehicle. And you remember, this vehicle was multi-purpose, interchanging beds, and what was encountered when they tried to put the salt spreader onto that truck, there was some hurdles in doing so. And in the event that that salt spreader was on the back of that dump body, we didn't have the capabilities of removing the dump bed. So we lost our flexibility of it being interchangeable. So we had to, we were looking at some other options, putting a V-box into the dump bed and then moving that in and out. And the most economical and feasible scenario was buying an actual, what they call the swap loader Flink unit, where the whole unit comes off with the hook arm. And now we maintain the flexibility and the purpose of why we got the so the downside was the salt spreader attachment on the back of it was about $4,000. Now for this unit, we're $12,753. But it provides us a lot more flexibility, and it's an extremely durable unit. And there's also an option that we're looking to grow into where you can put these side-mounted tanks where you can pre-wet the salt. So that is something that we intend to use this piece of equipment and grow into it. Maybe at some point this year we'll introduce it, but definitely with the target of next year, starting to pre-wet and pre-treat our roads with the liquid brine.
Okay, with that, need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Brewer makes the motion. Mr. Nichols seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Mr. Wilson votes no. Motion carries. Okay, motion to accept bid from Swings Auto Sales in the amount of $6,000 for the 2004 Ford F-550 dump truck.
So moved.
Mr. Brewer makes the motion.
Second.
Mr. Zigarelli
Question.
second. Question?
Did we blue book that area?
It blue book on the low end at like 55 and the high at 75.
Okay, motion by Mr. Brewer, second by Mr. Zigarelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, motion to appoint Tammy Lansbury to the Recreation Board Committee, term expiring December 31st, 2018.
So moved.
Mr. Michael and Mrs. Rossi, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Neighborhood Services Report, you have your attached copy in your pamphlet. Council of Government Report, Councilman Burr.
I have nothing at this time unless Mario wants to talk about the October 29th.
Yeah, I had it under my report as well, Councilman Brewer, but just as a reminder, do it now on October 29th. We have the first Beaver County Municipal Conference. We're looking for it to be a pretty exciting event, and I certainly encourage everyone to attend. It's free for all elected and appointed members of the borough, so no cost involved. It should be a good informative day.
Where at?
It starts at 8 o'clock and it goes throughout the day. The program concludes at 4 o'clock, and then there's optional 9 holes of golf, and that's a $40 fee. You choose the golf.
Stonewall.
And I believe it might be on the packet. There's some literature on it. So you can scroll down through it further. So let us know if you're interested, and we'll get you registered.
Yeah.
Continue with the manager's report. We had our insurance renewals, and just to show you the price comparison from last year to this year, our GL property and package insurance, it went up about $2,000. Our workers' comp actually went down about $4,000, and our volunteer fire department insurance went up about $2,300. So it stayed relatively stable overall. An update on the property acquisition on Pennsylvania Avenue. We're trying to close that property at the end of the month. Everything seems to be moving very well there. And then the PETA grant with the solar project in the garage up at the reservoir. Those bids have been put out, and we're expecting to receive those on the 20th of this month. We'll review those and analyze them and make a recommendation to council on the contractor for the solar project, and then as well as some of the garage bids as they come in as well. And then the last item I have is in regards to the budget. We're working on putting some of those numbers together. We're getting pretty close, but then we have the meat and potatoes of it, and some of the water capital improvements and the sewer capital improvements, and whatever direction council wishes to do with capital improvements on the general fund budget as well. But all the other details of it are pretty much plugged into the budget. I wish I had more promising news. Water and sewer is going to need some serious attention, and the general budget seems to be pretty stable. It's just a matter of what we want to do with roads, catch basins, and how aggressive we want to get with that. But I would like to recommend that our off weeks of our public meetings, we conduct those as budget workshop meetings. And then if any of the respective advertising at 7 p.m. and if the water or general government wishes to do any business on that, we have their meeting, maybe come in at 6:30, first half hour, do whatever business they need, and then we can get into the budget meeting. I'm assuming that everybody's going to want to participate with it, and if we have over a quorum, we're going to have to advertise it, unless you charge the budget formulating to just the general government, then we don't have to advertise it. That's your call.
The Public Works water meeting is already set for October 20th at 6 p.m., so 7 o'clock, not a problem.
November 3rd, election.
So you don't want to have a meeting, so we'll schedule, we won't advertise it for the 3rd, but we'll do it for the 20th, and then the following 17th. And I think by then we should have it, by the 17th, we should have it finalized. So we'll advertise those two weeks.
Mr. Demartio?
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Mayor, just to make your life a little bit more complicated and not make a push it, and I don't want to wait till next year. And I'm going to continue to push for this simply because the payoff will be next year. And that's what the road book that we want to do. And I had a discussion with Derek about it. I think his committee, with your involvement in it, he wants to compile which roads for next year. And then Mr. Brewer's committee, sit down and try to formulate if we need to borrow money to go forward with this as we planned originally, and how to orchestrate that. It's just, I know it's going to be complicated because of all the problems we had this year, but I know we are in very capable hands with email. So it's going to be a little bit of party between now and the end of the year, but if you get all that together, embed that in the budget, I'm sure that we're going to have a better year next year than we had this year. I'm sure it'll work out. It's all in the plan. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on. Borough Solicitor's Report, Mr. Yurk.
All the things that I wanted to report on have been reported on already. In addition, wish to go into executive session as listed on your agenda.
Okay, new business, Mr. Ross. Mr. Demartio. Mr. Michael.
Yes, residential complaint. Somebody emailed me pictures of our road department patching and sweeping the Dutch Bar parking lot. I was asked to bring it up at a meeting. I am doing so. Basically, the complaint is, for the shape that our roads are in, what are we doing private enterprise? So I am forwarding that to council.
I can answer that question. I think it's been brought up in past meeting as well. There was nothing different done there than other commercial establishments along Broadhead Road where we Marshall Road, where we patched Papa J's further down. Where Marshall Road abuts the parking lot, it cracks, and we restored that.
That's not the problem, Eric. I went over and looked, and there was some fresh patch also in the parking lot. That's what the residents were complaining about. And the fact that it got swept after the fact.
Well, yeah, and then as far as
Because I'm getting the grief.
yeah. And as far as the sweeping,
people's
as far as the sweeping, not only did they make the patch along where the parking lot and the roadway, but there's some other patches there. And when you patch, that debris kind of gets carried. And when the cars drove over top of it, it carried it into the parking lot. Street was out, and as a courtesy, it was run through there.
I asked them to forward me the pictures. I guess our truck actually pulled into the parking lot to patch holes. That's what that's what I got. And in that process is when we dropped the patch, and that's why we brought the sweep.
I explained to you what occurred, and I mean, if you have objections or you.
No, I don't have any
anything else,
objections. I'm going to ask them to forward. If they've got the pictures, that's fine. If not,
Mr. Brewer?
I spoke to Danny on that, being it was on the edge of the road. They did pull the dump truck into the parking lot and scoop the blacktop off of it into the potholes, so not to block traffic on Marshall. That was it. That's why they were in the parking lot.
And from when I talked to the person, the whole line wasn't done.
no, nobody said the whole, they didn't say the whole lot. They said there were several holes
Just got it.
in the parking lot that were passed. Their complaint is, we've got enough problem with our own streets. We can't be doing private businesses when I've got potholes in front of my house. That was their response.
Mr. DeMarzio?
Joe, I appreciate you bringing this up. This is old news. This goes back like 2 or
I
3
just got
days.
the complaints.
I understand, and I don't take exception to it. I was a little concerned when I first got wind of it, but I vetted it myself. I talked to Mr. Leone about it and looked into it. And I had, in my response, had mentioned that, I prayed that, this is not what it looks to be, but there's nothing underhanded here. It's the situation we're trying to pass it. Pardon me?
Just reporting a complaint
Absolutely.
from some of the citizens.
And I would have been the first one to really have given somebody some time off if that had been the case. But that was not the case, and I'm glad you brought it and made it transparent as such. I thought we would talked about it a couple of meetings back, but it's somewhat old news. I did look into it myself because I have been having issues with storm sewers in the downtown area. We just can't keep up with them and get them cleaned out, and I've been asking for that. And I would have taken a very, very severe stance on this had this been something that would appear underhanded. But it's just a situation where I believe they're patching as they're going along, and I don't know who took the pictures, and I'm not going to ask those
I
questions.
don't know either.
I
They
really
ended
don't
up on
care.
my email.
But, when people put these things out and they don't come forward with it, I look at it as somewhat cowardice. If you're going to make accusation of our employees, certainly this is still the United States. You have a right to face your accusers. We have a very good road department. There aren't as many, you know yourself, as many employees on that department as there used to be, whereas I would like to see on it. We tried to save a couple of dollars years ago, and now we're paying for it. And now we're having all these other issues, but I think the thing that I do take exception to is that if you're going to point something out about this borough, please step forward. There's not going to be any retribution. But I don't like it when it's bad for morale for this borough. And I'm not saying, Jeff, on your behalf, but on who's ever making these accusations, that you're going to make those accusations and you're going to take pictures. Pictures say 1,000 words, but it's not always the truth. I have a lot of faith in our guys, and they're people, they're not machines. You can't expect somebody to come to work every day and perform 110%. They're going to have off days. They're not going to be feeling well. They're going to have personal problems. But I believe, like any human being, you want to do a good job when you go to work. You don't want to do a bad job. You don't want to do things underhanded. And I would believe, as some of us here have worked for this borough, that we have a certain pride here in Monaca that goes beyond what I've seen elsewhere in other places. I really think it's getting blown out of proportion, but I do appreciate the fact that you did bring it up. But I think it needs to stop right here. Thank you.
Anything else?
I actually just have a common question, if I can be allowed my 5 minutes. I do know that this came up 23 days ago, and I believe that every council member received an email from our borough manager explaining the situation. My concern is not about the individual asking the question or issuing a complaint or taking the pictures, is that what response did you provide that individual if we were given that information 23 days ago?
I said I would forward it to the next meeting.
But we were given an answer 23 days ago in email. So if you received an email, you should have received that email 23 days ago. Am I mistaken in regards to that?
Well, the picture.
Along with the picture. I'm just curious, because I think that that's our obligation as elected officials. If somebody does have a complaint, to first try to handle it or get the answer for them. And I thought that we had a meeting in between. I just was curious in regards to that.
Well, I got nothing for the last meeting, if you recall. Nothing came through on my iPad. This meeting, no problem. Last meeting, nothing came through on my phone the day after. So obviously there was some problems there.
And I think we all have to recognize too, just because an entity is a business.
Monaca unit, Somerset Cascade Road.
Well, and when you look at, if I had to go through the list of work orders where we patched in front of a resident's driveway where the pavement broke up, or restoration in alleys that were done for a particular resident, you have to, extend a little work and effort to our businesses that provide income and revenue to the municipality as well. So, maybe you can convey that message back to this resident as well. I don't think they should be excluded just because they're a business. Why are you doing, we should maybe cater more to some of our businesses. And so it's just a matter of how you want to look at it.
Anything else? Mr. Brewer, new business?
Nothing.
Mr. Zarelli? Mr. Wilson, new business?
No,
New business? Mayor? Okay. Old business? We don't have it, we have the list. We all caught up.
General
Status quo.
government, because there's,
Yeah. Just, you gotta keep reminding me about that action item list. I have had my eyes in front of it for about a month. I won't forget about
No
it.
problem.
I'll talk with Barry, we'll get maybe have some sort of work around that. Just to let you know it's still there. 37 items.
It's there, there's 37 items.
All right, we'll get on. All right, we'll open up the floor to citizens, comments, complaints, compliments. Anyone wishing to speak to council this time? State your name and address and your reason for being here.
Mike 525 Wake B. Avenue. Question about that house fine. Is that yearly or is that gonna be like monthly? What you talking about?
The house fine is when a property becomes vacant beyond 60 days.
Okay.
And there'll be citations and correspondences trying to get the property owner to do something with that particular structure. If there is no movement, then a fine commences, I believe it was $500, and then it escalates as they continue to remain in violation.
Okay, how long until you guys would seize the house and try to tear it down or something? Like how long would you do that?
That becomes a lot more complex. There's been a lot of different issues. We won't seize any property, and maybe that's not the right word.
Well, no, that's not, I mean like how long until you would force them to tear it down, because I don't want.
Well, as soon as it
something.
becomes a violation of the International Property Maintenance Code, then we would begin the proceedings on condemning it, and then there's a whole process of the condemnation.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anyone else like to speak at this time?
Hi, my name is Mike Loma. I have a couple items I want to bring up about the parking authority. One of the hardest things in my life is to make one of my long stories short, but it's going to be short and sweet tonight. First, I'm going to give a brief history of the parking authority, because there's some misconceptions. There's, a lot of people don't really understand what all transpired. It starts in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s, Monaca installed parking meters. They had parking meters installed until the early 70s when they built the mall. First started with Gimbals, then they built the mall, and all the customers of the downtown businesses went to the mall, and they thought it was because of parking, because the mall had free parking. So the first thing they did was they took all the parking meters out of Monaca. So that went on for I don't know how many years. Then I think they eventually went to 2-hour parking, because when they first took the parking meters out, I think it was just not a free-for-all, but it was just free parking. Everybody just parked there. So I think they went to 2-hour parking. And then sometime in the early 80s, that's when we did the street renovation. And Monaca used to be the 2-lane highway, and then there was parking on both sides. So when they did the renovation, they turned it into 3 lanes with parking only on one side, 2 lanes of traffic, but then it switched back and forth, you know, the parking on each side. So when they did that, the consultants or whoever it was that did the whole project suggested that we started a parking authority. So in like 80 or 81, there were, Rich York, it was his first big job that he got, you know. He was our solicitor. It was me, Tom Stoner, Al Sanfrano, Preston Petrella, and I can't remember who the other person was. But we started from scratch. I think we got a grant from the redevelopment thing to buy the actual new meters because there weren't any meters left. So we did the whole thing, the bylaws, the meters. We had to change all the ordinances, did everything. So it was going good, other than the 5 of us just made so many enemies you can't imagine, because I think we started at just, was it $1 fine or $2? I think it was like, we started out low, just $1, not to, you know, excite anybody. So what happened was we didn't void any tickets. We didn't fix any tickets. That was our rule. So the person who got the maddest at us was John, was your dad, because all these people were just all day long bringing in tickets, and he couldn't void them, you know? So what I would do would be, if people gave me a ticket, I would take $1 out of my pocket, stuff the envelope, and probably put it in the box. So anyway, that all kind of went by the way. Well, not totally, but so we were doing well. We had a parking enforcement services. We were making money. There was, you know, cars were parking and would park. The merchants were happy. Everything was going well. So throughout those years, we were responsible for 1/3 of the debt to the George Washington Plaza. That was $25,000 that the parking authority was responsible for. We paid that off in like 4 or 5 years. Then we bought a building next to where the bar is, the Country Western Bar, the 12th Street lot, Whiskey Rhythm. We bought that building from Magnata for like $20,000. We spent $10,000 to tear it down and $10,000 to pave it, put the meters in. We paid that off 3 or 4 or 5 years, okay? So then, fast forward to 1996. For some reason, I was on from 81 to 96. They didn't reappoint me that year. They reappointed Vice Caltori, Mr. Caltori, okay? So I wasn't reappointed, and at that time, Jim Brandover resigned because he said if they didn't reappoint me, then he didn't want to be on the board, so they appointed Norm at that time. So it was Norm and Vice Caltori. So fast forward again to about 2012, the end, Norm asked me to be back on again. For all those years, we ended up with about, I think there was 6,000 or 7,000 in the checking account when I got on in 2011, I think, somewhere 11 or 12. Pat was our secretary. She was making about, with the employer FICA and the workers' comp and everything, right around $800 a month. the parking enforcement officer was making about 14, 15, maybe 16 with their benefits a month.
1,600?
100, yeah. And I think she was making 350 bucks a week, but that was her gross pay. So the employer, if I say all the things on top of that. So after I got on, we told Pat we had to cut her salary in half. And she pretty much took minutes, took money out of the tickets and deposited, and was in charge of recording the coin drop, you know, when they collected the coins and everything.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Towards that? And also when the tickets were brought in by a resident, she would take those payments too?
Right, yeah, I think either she would or someone at the desk would, whoever was at the desk would do it. So she said she couldn't do it for $400 a month. And we received no reports during the month, okay? It was just, at the end of the year, we got an Excel spreadsheet for the totals for the year for each category. So she didn't want to resign, or she resigned. We cut the parking enforcement officer's hours, 10 hours down to 25 hours a week. And we hired Darla Capello to be the secretary. At that time, we bought a laptop, and we used the software. To buy software was $7,000 or $8,000 for parking software. We bought QuickBooks for like $400, and I converted QuickBooks instead of invoices and payments. I changed all the screens to like tickets and tickets paid and tickets not paid, so that it was all. So we recorded every ticket, whether it was paid, went to the magistrate, whatever. So we did that up until about a month or two ago. And we were done, but we were still going down because there just weren't enough cars. So here's where the gist of the story is. I put so much time into this, all this work with the QuickBooks and everything. 3 weeks ago, we were $250 short for SD's paycheck. I put it in. That's not what I'm here for. Last Friday, we were $40 short. Okay, that's how close we're coming. I thought I'd put it in and then we do a coin count and whatever. So the worst part was, about 2 weeks ago, the laptop blue screen. So I took it to our IT guy. He was able to get it going. He reloaded Windows, or he did all these different things. And he was able to, he got back all of our data from like our Excel spreadsheets, our Word documents, all of that stuff he was able to retrieve. But all of the QuickBooks information is gone. Like when he told me that, like you guys, I spent hundreds of hours on this whole project, okay? And we had backups, but they were all on the laptop. So the backups are gone. Now, we still have all the bank statements, and we have the printouts from every month. She has all the printouts that we have in the files. But I mean, all this stuff's gone on there. So just the other day, Darla gave us her 2 weeks notice. So she's done. She said, I just can't take this anymore. She was even only taking $300 a month instead of she was making $400 a month. The last 3 months, she only took $300 because we didn't have any money. And she said because there weren't a lot of tickets produced, she really wasn't doing as much work as she was doing. So she only took $300. So when she told me that the other day, on top of losing all of that data, and I've been having some serious medical issues over the last couple of years, and I to make a long story short, I'm resigning from the parking authority, okay? And that's one of the things I wanted to tell you. But then after that, I just want to make a couple suggestions or whatever, because basically it's going to be the council that has to do it. We've heard, I don't know whether it was with Norm or whatever, but through the years, there have been people that said that the council wanted to put the parking authority back under the umbrella of the borough management, okay? which is, I mean, that's okay. But the parking authority is already in place. It functions, it functions well. But if that is your intention, when I resigned, well, I did resign, you could appoint another councilman. So then you would have 3 councilmen on the board, and probably, when I tell Jim Brandhoover what I did, he's probably gonna resign too. So you could appoint 4th councilman, to the, so it would basically be, can we not do that?
I don't think you can do that.
Really?
I'll have to check, there might be some,
Okay.
I think there's a provision in the parking authority law that prohibits.
Okay,
If you're limited as to how many council members could be on
never mind then.
there. Thanks, I'm not, I've got to
Yeah,
check.
I think.
Okay. And my only other thing is, whether the parking authority stays or goes or whatever, hypothetically, there was an investor that wanted to buy a whole block in downtown Monaca. And if hypothetically that investor wanted to buy a parking lot that we had, instead of just selling him the parking lot, which would have to be public bid anyway, you could do it in a way that have him buy another piece of property, because he's gonna need more parking anyway, across the street or across the side street, somewhere in the vicinity of the development. Have him buy the piece of property, pave it, put the meters in, and then you could basically trade. What he could do is, if he, say he has $80,000 in his project, well then when we or you put up the lot for sale, he would bid $80,000 for it. So he would pay the borough or the parking authority, whoever, $80,000, then the authority could use that $80,000 and buy that parking lot from him. Because if he just gives you $15,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 on a bid, you'll never be able to reproduce a parking lot for what you'll sell it for. So I mean, as part of the deal to any developer, that would be for the benefit of everyone, And it's like and everybody bitches about parking tickets and everything, but it's like, if you didn't have, some semblance of order, some patrolling, it would just be, there'd be cars parked on the main street 24/7. So it's like you need something, that's it. So I'm kind of done, literally and figuratively. So, thank you guys.
Thank you. Mike, thank you for.
Mike,
all your.
Okay.
Sure, Mr. Martin.
Oh, excuse me. And I'm gonna help, Dora's gonna be there for 2 weeks, and I'm gonna help her, close everything out or whatever we have to do. I'm not just quitting, I'm just, fading away.
Number one, thank you for your time on this. And I appreciate your honesty and your due diligence in trying to get this thing revived. We've had discussions, Mario and I, Mr. McKay, Mr. Michael, Mr. Brewer, just different things of what to do. We're trying to do a lot of realignment in this borough. Fire departments, police departments, this is just another extension of it. Business authority, it's the same thing. We're trying to get ready for tomorrow. It may be looked on as a bad thing, maybe it's not a bad thing. Change is always a horrible thing in everybody's eyes, even in my eyes. I don't like change. But one thing that's certain in this whole universe is it's in a constant state of flux, and there is going to be change. So it's time for a change. And that's the way to look at it. So what I would ask of you and Darla and remaining members is just to work with Mr. Leon. And what I'd like to do is John, is to bring your committee on board on it. If we're going to have a handoff, and then we're going to have Rich involved in this too, because it's a separate entity. We had plans to keep, who's on her now? I'm sorry, my brain's shot here.
I'm on, Mr. Michael's on.
No, I meant in terms of policing out there. Is he there?
Kira.
Okay, to keep her working.
Yeah.
I can't make promises,
Mhm.
other than I will do whatever I can do, and I'm sure if I speak for the rest of this council, that we will do whatever we can do to keep her working. I think there's work for her in this borough. We can't just say we're gonna wipe out an authority and then it's a free fall on that Main Street. That's just not gonna happen,
Yeah.
especially under my watch. Everybody knows how anal I am. But nonetheless, we gotta find a way to control the parking situation within this borough, be it a separate entity or a part of an extension of this borough, however, whatever. By law, the solicitor can tell us how it's to be done, and we'll go forward from there, that's all. And we'll keep her working, and we'll go on from there. But I think it's time for a change.
Right.
And just the way things are fleshing out, it just seems to be that that's the way it is. So don't look at it as a failure. Just look at it, it's time to try something new. But during the interim, until we get something re-solidified here, if you can work with Mario on it and parking for Jeff, I know you're looking to step down as well, you're getting full plate, but just to chime in whenever you can or whatever, and make it as smooth as transition as possible. Again, it's just part of leading the way in Beaver County. Just, hey, things may look like they're falling apart, but you know what? We can keep it together, and we can certainly come up with something better than what was there before.
And it's only temporary until things start going again and the downtown picks up. We're that close. And the other thing, two more things I want to say was that we were in the process of buying 24 more meters. We were going to put them in the George Washington Plaza and in 12th Street. There was some broken ones. We didn't have the 2,400, so we were making payments to the parking authority or the parking meter maintenance man. So we have $1,500 paid in and we didn't get any meters yet. So I would suggest getting the meters, but if you need the $1,500, there's $1,500 there that's available, but we wouldn't have the meters to put in the thing. And the other thing I was going to say was Rich would be the greatest source of information on how to go about changing this, yes or no, or keeping it or getting rid of it or whatever.
I think even, if I may interject here, that even on that matter, we can't just make an assumption here. We probably have to, Rich, again, I'm not a lawyer, but probably vote on something that for us to move in that direction. I don't even know what the questions were. I don't want to look for answers as to how to proceed on this. So,
I think just hearing this for the first time tonight, I think the general government committee needs to sit down and discuss what direction we want to go. I mean, obviously, you've been kind of operating kind of quasi here the last couple of weeks, unbeknownst to us.
Yeah.
So we'll continue with that and see, I'll tap you for any information and we'll open the dialogue and we'll see where.
The only thing too is thinking back to the early '80s, I think Rich and I didn't have as much break then. It's better, actually.
Hey, Lafayette, you proved that the alternative is even worse.
There you go. Okay, thank you guys. We'll see you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, also like with Mike resigning, I text Mr. DiMarzio, being the president appoints to the authority, and then I told him to start looking up before he got ill, and because I've got, with my new job, I'm getting stuff with evenings and possibly some travel, and so it's like I was going to be resigning anyway. So that was another one, but I was just hanging on until we found someone. So consider that going to be happening too. So we'll just, like I said, enter into this discussion as to where that's going to go.
Yeah, I'll get with Mario and Rich. Get all the information we need before the general government starts discussing.
Okay.
Thanks for stepping up.
All right, well, let's skip this executive session for 1 second. Let's just go to the announcements and we'll get that over with, and then we'll go to our executive session. The trick or treat schedule for Monday, or for Monaca, is on Thursday, October 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. and the Halloween parade will be October 31st on Saturday at 11 a.m. Make sure, where is the lineup gonna be, does anyone know? It's gonna be down on 8th Street? Okay. Okay, and one thing that I'd like to let everyone know about, that Beaver County has implemented a mass notification system, like a phone tree system. It's called Swift 911, that we have all the landlines, but if you want to be notified, you can go to the county's website or on the borough's site, and it'll take you to there, and you register your cell phones, your emails, that you can get emergency information. It's going to be all emergency information, and then we would be using our phones for just the other stuff that we do. But that would come in, like we used the first time for the testing of the sirens, and we put out like 44,000 calls within like 26 or 36 minutes. So it all depends on the thing. So we need to get you, if you want to get the messages, and it's important to get all that, information, whether it's tornado, nuclear, or whatever. So it's a good thing that we got going on, and you just go on and just sign up, register, and then you can take it off if you want. But, it's called Swift 911. Just go to our site. It's almost the pages I put it out there.
Jeff, are they making that available for municipal issues, or we have boil water over there?
If we had to, I'm not sure on probably on if it's an emergency, it's gonna be mostly emergency. And also what it can do is like you said, if we pick Monaca, and it would pick everyone just in Monaca.
Geocode.
Yeah, geocode. Or if you just hit 9th Street, Pennsylvania, and you need a half-mile radius, it'll just pick those phones up and notify. And the reason about putting your address in, it'll notify your phone. If you're not there, it'll notify you that something's going on within that half-mile radius, and that you might not be able to get into that area if it's a hazmat incident or whatever. So we're still working on a lot of the details on what they can do if it's an emergency situation. They're definitely going to do it, but they're not going to do it for a lot of other things. Still working out the details, but we're trying to get people signed up right now, and like I said, as we speak, they're trying to get it all together. All right, so that was the information thing. So I need a motion to go in executive session for legal discussion, DEP Route 51 sewer issue.
So moved.
Mr. Brewer makes the motion, Mr. Michael seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to go into executive session.
Well,